FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
This show is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're looking to hire, LinkedIn is the place to go.
FSN Radio.
Welcome, and you are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's September 17th, 2018. As always, we invite you to be part of the show. Just email us, kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, we've seen a lot of media people, top media people, be displaced on the charges of a sexual misconduct. I don't know what exactly that comprises right now. That's hard to know at this point. It's a rapidly changing definition for sure. Les Moonves over at CBS gone, and $180 million severance package looks like it's up in smoke, and so many others, the head of 60 Minutes. And you just go down the list. Our good friend James Hirsen is with us now, and James, a fellow attorney and columnist, author. It's great to have you back on, James.
Great to be with you, Kerry. This shocked the Hollywood business community because Les Moonves was someone that they thought of as upstanding, untouchable, and powerful. He's one of the highest paid, most successful CEOs of any industry. His track record with CBS from the shareholder point of view and the board of directors is amazing, which is why he was so highly paid, which is why they were contemplating this huge severance package. But what happened is Ronan Farrow, around the end of July, came up with this report, and it had 6 women spanning multi-decades, alleging various forms of hostile work environment, sexual misconduct, forced kissing. Not that it wasn't serious, but the board of directors said, well, we're going to investigate this. They let the public know through a press release. We're taking it serious. But they kept Les Moonves on the job. And a lot of people in the Me Too movement were upset with that. Why, you should at least suspend him, blah, blah, blah. But along comes Ronan Farrow more recently with another report with another 6 women. And by the way, they weren't all anonymous in either of these reports. This one, there were 3 who gave their names. And again, it spanned going back, much like Kavanaugh we'll talk about, but it's going back 40 years, some of them. But at least some of the allegations were this century, were past the year 2000. But it was the sheer cumulative effect of all these allegations. And apparently what their investigation had turned up in the interim, CBS said, well, our brand is really getting killed here. And they let Les Moonves resign. And reports are that he's probably going to get far less than his north of $100 million severance package, maybe even 0, but you don't have to feel sorry for him. He's not quite a billionaire, but he's very close to being a billionaire. And some of the allegations talked about a toxic environment at CBS, and it implicated a producer in the both articles, who now is executive producer of 60 Minutes, who was the chairman of CBS News, Jeff Fager, another pretty powerful person at CBS. And he ended up getting fired, not according to CBS over the investigations or over the reports by Ronan Farrow, but over a text.
Really?
Where he texted a reporter telling her to be careful if you're going to do something to investigate and report that would harm me. You better make sure you have all of your sources, because people who have tried to harm me have been come to harm themselves. And they viewed that, and it was a threat. And ironically, what we're talking about, the reporter was a CBS reporter, a CBS journalist. And it was, so I guess got to give credit to CBS News. They were investigating themselves, but it was, I think her name is Jerrica Duncan, who talked about this text message and I guess exposed it. Anyway, the entire Evening News employees rallied to support this Jericka Duncan after she disclosed the text, and CBS said that the text was unacceptable, violative of CBS policy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this is the same CBS News that Charlie Rose worked in. So now you have Charlie Rose, Jeff Fager, Les Moonves. It's probably not the end of their problems. And it's just part and parcel of this very strange world of Me Too-ism that we now live in that doesn't seem, in other words, the social media always erupts the same way with I believe her and with you must believe the woman. And we know, we're both lawyers, you must respect people that come up with allegations. It doesn't mean you immediately tear them apart, but you cannot believe them until the allegations are investigated. And in the legal term, in the legal world, you cannot believe them until they're testifying under oath, subject to effective cross-examination.
Of course.
And so people's careers are being ended where the presumption of innocence is ignored, and the notion and the policies behind the statute of limitations that takes place in civil and criminal cases, those policies are ignored. And so I think the Me Too movement has caused a breach of due process, and I don't know which of the cases to cite because I really don't know. But I mean, in the case of Harvey Weinstein, it's being litigated criminally, and so it'll come out. There were like 80 accusers. I mean, it was just this massive influx. Everyone knew. But here's it.
I think he abused me once too, and I don't think I ever met him. But it seems like I might have remembered something happened.
Yeah, I mean, that was a different story. But Les Moonves, there was not that kind of reputation. He was happily married to Julie Chen. And I think he still is. And so it seems like Ronan Farrow now has become a journalistic hitman, and he just decides, well, I'm going to investigate this person, that person, and take them down. He won a Pulitzer Prize for the Harvey Weinstein thing. I think that was very good. I'm not as convinced that everything is on the up and up with this Les Moonves thing, because in the background, Les Moonves was the singular obstacle to CBS remerging with Viacom. And Sherry Redstone, the wife of Sumner Redstone, who runs that company, had been engaged in a heated battle with Les Moonves. Now, CBS will merge with Viacom because Sherry Redstone gets her way, and she denies that she had anything to do with Ronan Farrow's investigation, but it sure seems, the timing seems coincidental.
Yeah, it's like a star chamber here of, judge, jury, and executioners of Al Franken. Perfect example.
FSN Radio.
James, I've been hiring and firing people for over 35 years now, and running a business like we both do, how important the right hire can be and what an impact that person can make upon your business. And that's why it's so important to find the right person. But where do you find them? Where do you go? You could try posting on the job boards, but can you really be sure the right person is going to see your job, James? I mean, so many times I've placed ads in papers and get no responses, one or two, but totally unqualified. But instead, you can find the right person who will help you grow your business with LinkedIn. It's the world's largest professional network. People go to LinkedIn every day to grow professionally, as well as to discover job opportunities. And 70% of the U.S. workforce is already there. LinkedIn Jobs matches people to your role based on more of who they really are, their skills, their interests, and even how open they are to new opportunities. This way, your job gets seen by more of the right people. Most LinkedIn members haven't recently visited the top job boards, but 9 out of 10 members are open to new opportunities. And that's why, look, James, I've got some job openings coming up. I'm going to post them on LinkedIn. It's pretty amazing how powerful their matching mechanism is. And you can only reach these people on LinkedIn. That's why a new hire is made every 10 seconds using LinkedIn. And businesses rate LinkedIn 40% higher than job boards at delivering quality candidates. Hurry on to linkedin.com/FSN and you'll get $50 off your first job post. That's linkedin.com/FSN to get $50 off your first job post. LinkedIn.com/FSN. Of course, terms and conditions apply.
FSN Radio.
So, James, Al Franken, totally reprehensible human being in many, many respects, but it was never proven that he ever did anything that awful. I mean, the pictures he had was when he was on Saturday Night Live. You expect idiocy from a Saturday Night Live star, and you're seldom ever disappointed.
Well, this is, you mentioned Al Franken. Al Franken was shocking. Matt Lauer was shocking. Charlie Rose was shocking. Kevin Spacey. And it's amazing that we've seen this in such a short period of time. And Hollywood has responded with just image. They set up a commission on sexual harassment, and they appointing Anita Hill to head it.
Great. Love that.
Isn't
that great?
That's really ridiculous. Of course, that leads us right into the Brett Kavanaugh situation, where we have Anita Hill, the redo. You have a liberal professor who not even the last minute, the confirmation hearings are done.
Yeah.
And after they close, she comes out of the woods with a letter that Dianne Feinstein waves and a referral to the FBI, which was phony. And this woman, Christina Ford, is a member of the resistance. She is a resistance to Donald Trump. She's a radical left-winger. Mm-hmm. She made those pink hats that are supposed to look like kittens, I suppose, is what we use a euphemism. Uh-huh. She donated to the DNC and the Democratic Congressional Committee, an entity that was a basic front to raise money for this stuff. She marched in a women's march. Her lawyer is another radical. She just conveniently, before she let her identity be known, deleted all her social media accounts.
Purely coincidental.
She had a bio on Stanford University. She was teaching in a program that was collaborating with Stanford, so her bio appeared. Her bio is erased. So this whole thing, first of all, it's fundamentally unfair for Dianne Feinstein to claim that she has this important letter and to sit on it for 6 weeks while the hearings go on, very contested, very circus-like hearings, and the hearings come to a close, and she possesses this letter, and then after the hearings come to a close, when the confirmation vote is scheduled, she comes out there. That is unfair to Americans. It's obviously unfair to Brett Kavanaugh. It is unfair to the woman accuser because it forced her to come forward, supposedly. And it's unfair to her colleagues on the Senate, both parties. It is truly despicable. And Dianne Feinstein, who employed a Chinese spy for decades, who has become ridiculously wealthy with very suspect government contracts to her husband, is someone who should be investigated thoroughly herself. And for her, so this is a hit job. It is orchestrated. The architects are the same people in the DNC that went after Roy Moore successfully. And I suspect Gloria Allred is out there trolling for other women. I don't think she's going to get them with, and certainly not in any legitimate way. Mm-hmm. Brett Kavanaugh, there's already been over 60 women who went to high school with him at his, not in the same school because it was all boy, but went to high school at the same time he did and knew him and came out and said, this is false. The single witness that was in the room said it's absurd. It's insane. that Brett Kavanaugh never acted like that. And Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president, is out there urging this woman to come and testify. Now, that tells me the White House knows that it'll be a good thing for their side.
Okay.
Much like it was for Clarence Thomas, that she's not going to be able to withstand cross-examination. And there's some people on the committee that know how to do that. And if not, they'll have lawyers advise them.
Let's hope.
And she doesn't seem to remember anything. She doesn't remember the address of the place, the house she was in, the room. But yet she remembers these details that supposedly traumatized her so much that she had to go to a therapist years later. This is interesting.
21 years later. There's another aspect, too, that Judge Kavanaugh's mother foreclosed on the accuser's parents' home in Maryland. She was the, referee or however they work it in Maryland. So this woman's got an axe to grind here. And
absolutely. Here's another little, and these things we're talking about, Kerry, are not being reported. And here's another real interesting coincidence. She claims she went to a therapist and has produced therapist notes of some sort of therapy session in 2012 where this came out. Just turned out that visit to the therapist was in 2012 when somebody's name had hit the newspapers as a possible Supreme Court nominee, a choice of then Republican candidate Mitt Romney, and that name was Brett Kavanaugh.
Correct.
So if in fact this trip to the therapist is real, I'm not certain of that.
It's a setup.
Yeah,
classic setup.
But if it occurred at that time, it occurred because the Democratic Party has been nervous for all these years about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And they're so nervous right now. They've produced a documentary. They have articles saying how healthy she is. And if you see her speak...
Oh, my God. That video that was on last week, I think they had to have smelling salts hanging from a string under her nose because she was passing out and could barely lift her head.
She's got her head down,
God.
And she has... 14 seconds between words. Yeah. It's almost like watching Weekend at Bernie's.
Garbled
it's
speech.
Really,
yeah, unbelievable.
So I think but anyway, my prayer is that the hit job is exposed. But I recommend, if anyone would listen to me, but Grassley ought to. I know now that Republicans say, we got to give her day, and I understand that, and got to let Brett Kavanaugh come in, but they need to do it in closed session. They needed to do it in a very quick way. Yeah. Have her come in tomorrow, do this right away, and keep the scheduled confirmation vote on schedule for Thursday. They cannot derail that vote, in my opinion, and that's what I would recommend. But I don't know that they have the backbone to do what I'm recommending.
Yeah, well, maybe Trump will have his way. Maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe she was paid off, too. It wouldn't surprise me. She's such an ideologue. When you look, they had reviews of her students talking about her from her classes there, and she was dark, she was crazy, she was angry.
Oh, that's right.
She was a total, according to them, if you put any credence in these people.
I have an advanced degree in psychology. I know a little bit about the discipline, and it's just infested with left-wingers to the point where all you have to do is go to any psychology department and look at the PhD dissertations, and none of them are really about science. They're all about social justice, warrior kind of issues,
white privilege.
So but it's
masculinity.
Hopefully they've overplayed their hand, and this thing will be exposed, and this good man's reputation will be able to, at least in some way, resurrected. But even Clarence Thomas to this day has to suffer through Hollywood, made for TV movies on HBO and books. that constantly lie about what really happened, about Anita Hill's real role. It's, America rightly came to the conclusion that she wasn't telling the truth by an overwhelming majority, according to the polls. But now, after Hollywood revisionism and media revisionism, if you took a poll, those people that even know who she is, they would say, she's a saint, because they've elevated her to that level.
Mm-hmm. It's sad, but very true, unfortunately. And is Kavanaugh going to get on, you think? What's your final guess there?
It's, here he should, but here's the problem that he has. Already, Jeff Flake has made noises that, he's going off the reservation. The question is, does Grassley still have the votes? Is Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins going to go sideways? There were Democrats that were going to vote for Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
They may feel they have an out with this, last minute Anita Hill redo. So it's hard to say. But I believe that if they muscle it through this week, and they got to use muscle, I think they can do it. It's just a question of, will the, I think the establishment Republicans are offended at this.
Yeah,
and I do think that they can pressure, get Flake back. They can pressure Collins and Murkowski. They can get the votes. But what they have to do is show strength. And that's the real question.
Yeah.
I know the president already has, because he's backing Kavanaugh. I feel for his family, though. This is such an evil, despicable thing to do to a human being.
Absolutely.
And
no excuse for it,
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's terrible. Really terrible that this guy, he's led an exemplary life. And, what we were talking about, and he ties in perfectly with Moonves and the rest, you got to have some due process. You can't just ruin a person's life just on the allegation of, unsubstantiated allegations. Okay. Yeah. Maybe Charlie Rose was a lot more out there. Maybe the others were too. But certainly to kick Al Franken out of the Senate over what was pretty much a prankish thing, it didn't rise to the level of real sexual abuse, is just wrong. Weinstein, there's just so many, and there's criminal action and civil litigation going on.
And yet, the deputy head of the DNC, Keith Ellison, has a woman alleging criminality. In 2016, she went to the police. She is out there saying, why won't anyone report my case? Because, that's the Democratic Party is ignoring her. Because Keith Ellison represents a protected class, being an African-American Muslim in Congress. And so they won't act on that. So that leads back to Al Franken. Al Franken had enemies within the Democrat Party who wanted him out and pressured him to resign, or he would still be there.
He was an embarrassment on many levels and an all-around jerk. But that doesn't mean that you give up your right to due process just because you're an idiot, right? I mean, there's no exception in the Constitution for being a jerk.
Well, I think
don't have rights.
I think this sets a dangerous precedent, because now we're going back to high school, looking at a 17-year-old with a 15-year-old at a party. And I dare say that there are a lot of people in Congress, a lot of office holders, that if we go back to high school and when they were teenagers and try to exert the Me Too code, it's not going to work very well.
No, and the FBI ignored it. The Department of Justice ignored this thing. It's like, how far do you go back? If you once told a dirty joke at a party, is that going to knock you out? I mean, it kind of started with those illegal aliens. People hired their illegal nannies, etc. You know, you once hired a cleaning person who wasn't documented, and that's the end of your career. It's gotten absurd here. It really has. Who in their right mind wants to serve in any function, any role in government, when this can be thrown up and brought up and, you know, you could be besmirched. And like Secretary Donovan once said, where do I go to get my reputation back?
That's right.
Yeah, really disconcerting that they would do it. And knowing that full well that in the future it could be done to them as well, and will be. You know, it's not right being done by either side, no matter how noble the aim of it is and how righteous they may be. It's not a good thing to start doing. And look, if we had subjected people to this test over the past couple hundred years, we'd have a lot less statesmen, a lot less senators. A lot of the people who are household names wouldn't have been able to step foot in the Capitol. I mean, just look at Robert Byrd. I mean, the guy was the Grand Kleagle of the KKK in West Virginia, and you know, he made racial slurs on TV, and none of that seemed to ever make any difference, James, you know? So that was a guy who was an out.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, there's a double standard, no question about it.
Yeah.
But we'll pray and hope that this tactic fails, and that it fails like Anita Hill failed.
Mm-hmm. I think it will fail.
We have a wonderful, great legal mind, a superb justice who served all these years on the Supreme Court, and we pray that we'll get the same with Judge Kavanaugh, who's the most qualified candidate for the Supreme Court in the modern era. You know, he's and if on substance, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Hey, just the fact that his mother, Kavanaugh's mother, foreclosed upon the accuser's parents' home in Maryland probably would indicate she has a bone to pick. But hey, we'll leave it to the Congress to figure it out, the Senate. It's their problem, not ours, but it is an awful thing. Hey, James, we want to go to your website. Where do we find your writings for the most part?
Well, I'm active. I haven't erased my social media accounts, so I'm on Twitter.
We haven't been nominated.
James. My last name is Hirsen, Hirsen. I'm on Twitter and Facebook, and jameshirsen.com.
All right, James. And well, there's a link in the notes to this interview with your website, taking you directly to the website. You could read James's work. We read it all the time. And again, send us an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. The Twitter feed is @KerryLutz, and the Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. Thanks, James.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.